This is Planning for the Future, the podcast.
Welcome to Planning for the Future. My name is Brendan Shanahan, along with Joe Okros. Joe is a investment specialist and long-term care expert. So tell me a little bit about your business.
Our business started in 1963. The name of our business is A2 Investment Solutions out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. My dad started the business in 1963. I'm an attorney, a licensed attorney in Michigan, started in 1994, joined my dad in 2010. We have two different offices in Michigan. We specialize in representing pre-retirees and retirees in investment planning, retirement planning, and long-term care planning.
What is one of the most frequently asked questions when it comes to planning for long-term care?
Well, a lot of times people planning for long-term care are confused. They don't know what's available to them. It's really a new area for people. Typically, they only assume that there is long-term care insurance available, and they're not aware of the different techniques or laws or different areas that allow them to pay for long-term care that they probably are not aware of. And that's where we love to sit down with people, educate them, teach them, and then hopefully we can work with them and help them, satisfy their long-term care needs in their retirement plan.
Right. A lot of people think that when it comes to long-term care, you've got plenty of time and I don't need to start now, but any time is a good time to start planning for long-term care. I mean, there's never a bad time, right?
That's correct. What typically happens is when you talk to people in their 30s and 40s and early 50s, that they look at that as that's something way out into the future. People start recognizing that when they start getting into their 50s and 60s because they typically have a parent, if they're married, at least one or two of the parents in that situation who are now into their 80s are in need of long-term care. And so these people start recognizing it at that point that, hey, mom's in a nursing home, mom has Alzheimer's, dad might have an issue, and they determine at that point that we need to start preparing for ourselves. We might have a nice nest egg in retirement, but when it comes down to it, long-term care can be very expensive, and they realize at that point they want to make sure that they are taken care of down the road when they're in their mid-80s, late 80s, and they don't want to be a burden for their children also and have to be knocking on their parents' door when they're 88 years old to move into the basement. They need to understand these different laws, and that's where we educate them and teach them some different techniques and different avenues where they can get long-term care.
It's not something that is once it's in, it's done. You can make adjustments. So you can start off with something small and then make it grow and change throughout the years as you get older yourself, as your needs get more, as you have more income that you want to invest, right?
That's correct. And that's one of the areas where our firm, as specializing in long-term care, understands and knows about the different products and ideas and techniques that are available to the public to increase their long-term care benefits. There's many different avenues that we address that people aren't aware of and that 95% of the other financial advisors out there are not aware of that are available to clients as they age, where we can take certain pieces of their different investment pile or different avenues and turn that into long-term care benefits down the road.
Like annuities, like you can take an annuity and change that around, right?
Yeah, we can take, some people have, say, old traditional annuities that are kind of outdated, and we can take their annuity and actually turn that into a long-term care type of product where it will double or triple their money, the value of the annuity that they can use to long-term care. And if they don't end up using it, then I guess it's more positive for them, but at the same time, they still maintain principal balance and they still maintain a portion of their investment.
It's not like the old days of, what would they say, either you use it or you lose it, right? It's not like that anymore.
Correct. And one thing that we always sit down with our client we're aware that we're preparing for long-term care. It's an insurance. So it's insuring us for down the road that in the event that we need long-term care, that the funds are available to us. However, we always tell people that had the old-fashioned traditional long-term care insurance, which is overpriced, increases every year, and is really outdated. We tell them the negative with that is I threw $80,000 at this contract for 20 years, and then unfortunately, or fortunately, I died of a heart attack immediately and never made use of it. I felt good that I had the insurance available to me, but I also threw $80,000 out the window that could have went to heirs or my spouse or somebody else. So these new techniques and products that have come along over the years like I said, 95% of the advisors out there and the people are not aware of these. And that's where we love to go in there and show these people some different ideas and strategies where they will be able to cover their long-term care if they end up needing it. If not, they didn't throw their money away. The money is available to them if they passed away in an immediate type of situation where the heirs or the spouse or the children will still have that chunk of money that they put into the product.
You always think about your mortality, especially as you get a little bit older and you have your own family and things like that. And what you're buying is kind of a peace of mind, right?
Yes, definitely. I when I talk to clients, I say it's something similar to auto insurance. You might be a perfect driver and drive 50 years and never have an accident. But it's nice to have that in your mind. You're not always at fault in an accident. You hear about terrible situations where there's a terrible accident, a car gets totaled, you have bad health issues. Well, the same thing is long-term care. As we age, we start to realize and see mom and dad or different situations where they are struggling in a nursing home or they're struggling aging, or one of the key areas is struggling, but they still want to remain in their home and have long-term care coverage for home care. What we offer people at that point is the specialization where we can take them in different directions and show them some different ideas to give them that sense of comfort where they will have long-term care insurance available to them when that time becomes necessary for them to have coverage.
Right, and that peace of mind is great because there's certain things you can't plan for. Like you can't plan for a heart attack or a stroke.
That's something that I talked about earlier. When you're in your 30s and 40s, you don't think about that. You think you're going to live forever. And then you start hitting 50s and 60s, and you start seeing your parents or older generation having issues, and you don't know. We've had some clients before, mid-60s, where they have had early onset Alzheimer's, and they didn't know that was going to come on. Nobody knows. You could be the most healthy person in the world, but a stroke can happen. Different things can happen to people. And that is where we love to provide the service for people and provide them with long-term care planning that is essential to go along with their retirement planning.
It's different for everybody too, right? It's not like a one-size-fits-all. That's why it's kind of fun for you, isn't it, to go through and create plans for people specifically.
Yeah, one of the most enjoyable parts of my job is to create plans for people. When we sit down together, it's really about them. We listen to them. They tell us about their situation, what their goals are. Then we offer our recommendations and suggestions as specialists in long-term care and retirement planning. And together, that's where we really love to dig into it and put together a lifetime retirement plan, long-term care plan for our clients. And we get such satisfaction out of that, knowing that they leave our office with a sense of comfort that they are covered for the rest of their life in retirement planning as well as their long-term care needs.
You probably get a lot of thank you notes as well in there, don't you?
Yes, we get plenty of thank you, and a lot of people that come in, if they were working with another advisor, whatever that brought them to us, that they are grateful and thankful to us that we really took our time with them, put together a plan specifically directed towards their personal situation, whether they are single or a husband and wife, that allows them to have a sense of comfort, and we call it a financial roadmap, where they have a financial roadmap for them. One point I always talk about in workshops or with clients are people put all their emphasis into medical situations. They know when they hit 60 or 55, they have to have colonoscopy. Men have to have their tests. Women have to have their tests. Different people, they know exactly what they have going on for health the rest of their life when their appointments need to be. A lot of times they are no fault of their own, but they don't address their financial situation in the same manner. They wait till the very last minute, and then they're scurrying to try to make it right. When we get an opportunity to sit down with people and put together a plan and have them put the same amount of emphasis in their financial planning, retirement planning, long-term care planning that they put into their health planning, it gives us a great sense of comfort, and it gives them an incredible sense of relief that they know they can enjoy life and retire happy, that they have every avenue covered down the road.
And it's all about making your money work for you, right? Like I've heard it being said, making $1 do the work of $4.
Correct. And that's where long-term care and some of the different options available that I keep reiterating that 91% of the advisors and people out there are not aware of it. But there are so many different products and ideas and strategies available for long-term care planning that will allow you to stretch your dollar, allow you to take a portion of your money. You might say somebody comes into our office, and we work with people of all different financial means, but somebody comes into our office with $1.2 million in investable assets, IRAs, retirement plan money, 401ks. We can take a portion of that money, and they're concerned about long-term care, and we can take $200,000, $300,000 of that and move it to a long-term care strategy product that will allow them to stretch their dollar and maybe double, triple, quadruple their money for long-term care needs. In the event they don't need it, it still becomes part of their investments that they can leave to their spouse or heirs when they pass away.
Do you recommend that you involve the family as well in long-term care planning? Some people, I know that people can be very private. A lot of times, generationally, you'll see like, well, my kids don't need to know anything about that. But sometimes it becomes beneficial to involve them just because they need to know what's going on as well.
Absolutely correct in that a lot of people don't necessarily involve their children at that point. They may be, say, 62, 63, 64. Their kids are, say, 30s, 40s. And at that point, they are healthy at that point. So they assume everything is okay. And when that time comes, their kids will figure it out. Well, we try to let people know that it's nice for the children to at least have an idea of what's going on, who their advisor is. We like them to give maybe put them in touch with our office, let them know who we are. In the event all of a sudden mom or dad have a stroke in their 70s or 80s or even 60s, maybe the other parent has already passed away. The children might have no idea where to turn. Where's mom and dad's folder? Where's their investment file? They know nothing about us. So it's nice for us to be able to talk to those children in their 40s, 50s, 30s, and teach them a little bit about what we have available, what mom and dad have available. In the event dad has a stroke and say mom is already gone, the kids have no idea what dad planned for. If they have met with us, they can call us. We can teach them what the products or different strategies or ideas that we set up for mom or dad. And at that point, we can work with the children to make sure mom and dad are taken care of, put in the proper either structure or one of the big things that we look for is home care. A lot of times the different products that we work with will cover home care. And maybe mom or dad broke a hip, they're struggling, and the kids don't necessarily know where to go with it. Mom and dad are confused at that point. They might not know where to turn. We can talk to the children and say, hey, let's our products that we set up for your mom and dad allow us to have home care, nursing, or something like that. They can keep mom and dad in their home. So it's excellent for us to be able to at least have a little contact with the children. And if not that, for mom and dad, they'll at least give the children our information so they know to turn to us immediately and we can get on it if an issue happens with mom or dad.
Because times have changed, too. It used to be that the parent would go back and live with one of the kids later on. I remember growing up, grandparents came back and lived with mom and dad and instead of going into a nursing home. Yeah. And the fact that you can get something to help pay for that, because I read a stat. It was something crazy about how much money it'll cost the child when one of their parents comes back to live with them that need that long-term care just because of time off work, all kinds of different things. It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, the world has completely changed. Back in the 1940s, 50s, say 60s, people grew up and say there was a mom and a dad and 3 children. Typically, everybody remained. We're from southeastern Michigan. Everybody remained within an hour of mom and dad. Mom and dad or one of the two got sick. People would move in together. People would help each other out. Families would help each other out. In the 50s and 60s, people started going away to college. People from Michigan would go out to California. People would go to Florida. People would go down south. People would go out west. They go to different areas for college. They might meet their girlfriend or boyfriend at that time, and they might end up staying out there. So no longer do families all typically live in the same area. So it's not feasible anymore for people to rely upon their children to move in with. And the second point that you make, it's incredibly expensive. Life used to be much more inexpensive back then. There were different forms of government aid that would help you along. It's a different world nowadays. We have to prepare for ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves. And the government has really put that burden on individuals to take care of their retirement planning and their long-term care planning. We in order to really not be a burden for those children, as well as the fact that we might have lived in southeastern Michigan our whole life, we don't want to be moving out to Seattle, Washington to move in